Hello everybody, this is Tim here again, here to do another movie review, this time for The Matrix Resurrections, aka Matrix 4. Now, just to jump into this movie, as far as my opinions on the Matrix films go, I'm pretty sure I reviewed the other three, maybe I did, or I may have reviewed the whole franchise in one video, but I'll just go ahead and give an updated review for the whole franchise right now for all the films. The first one I think is a masterpiece, it's probably one of the best films ever made. It was really groundbreaking for its time, especially for bullet time and all that, and even the idea of it itself, which was, yes, taken from some other things, but combined together to make an extremely interesting original movie and story idea with, like, what is reality and free your mind and all that, and is and reality based on perception and all that kind of stuff. Very well done. Keanu Reeves did a great job. He was perfectly suited for that kind of role. His actually bad acting suited him there in that movie, and Keanu Reeves has been great in the John Wick movies, but he's a bad actor in a lot of instances, and he's only like maybe an average actor at best. It just depends on who's directing him. They can use some good directors, or the right directors can normally take his bad skills that are good to work with him and use it to be good in certain movies. Matrix 2 was much weaker than the first one. Now, after seeing this movie and the other two sequels, I have to say Matrix never really needed a sequel. It's kind of a one-off idea. Matrix 2 is a 2.5-star movie out of 4. It's an all-right movie. It's all right. I like it for the action. The plot is much weaker and much more like convoluted and all the extra stuff they try to add to the Matrix mythology. But seeing Hugo Weaving back and a lot of the fight scenes in it are really cool, except for like the overdone CGI and the big Smith clone fight. Some of the CGI there is really bad and does not hold up at all. But still, though, for the most part, that fight's still pretty enjoyable, and for the most part, the action in the film is really enjoyable with Keanu Reeves. Matrix 3 is just pretty much a typical war movie. That's one of the problems. Once you get past like the first Matrix with the whole what is reality thing and all that, that's really what makes the franchise interesting. And once you move past that, what else do you really have with the Matrix? It's a typical man versus machine story, really. So that's pretty much what number 3 is. It's just a war movie. It's okay for what it is. I used to think it was just passable, kind of lame. It's really just okay. Watching it again and seeing it much later, it's still the weakest of the first 3, but it's okay for what it is. It's an okay movie for just a straight up war movie, which is really all it could be. Once you get past all the mythology and stuff like that of the reality warp mining bendingness of the first film. This one, Matrix Resurrections, I'll just go ahead and say it. This is a 0 out of 4. This is easily the worst of the 4 films. Part of that is just due to the fact I have to compare it to the first movie, just like I had to do those other 2 sequels. Like, on its own, or like not compared to the first movie and just treat it as a sequel or whatever, just as a movie by itself, or just treat it as a movie by itself. I mean, this would be like an okay movie or a passable movie, but as a sequel to the Matrix, the first movie, this is crap. It has some good ideas here. There are some good ideas. You get like this new version of Morpheus, who is created by Keanu Reeves' character in the movie, who's now like a video game programmer. There's like a new version of the Matrix in this movie, and Keanu Reeves' character Neo, or Mr. Anderson, is back in it, and he is like a video game programmer, and he's created like they try to make it seem like the Matrix movies are just like we're all video games that he made. That's a pretty cool idea. That right there, once again, could have been an idea of its own for an entire movie if they wanted to. They could have done an entire movie just like that. Carrie-Anne Moss is not in a lot of this movie until like the climax. Most of the plot of the movie is just pretty much getting to rescue her, and then they don't even free her until like the end of the movie. It's Neo wanting to be back with her. You get Jada Pinkett Smith back here in old age makeup. I thought the old age makeup looked fine. She's back here, and we learned that it's been like 60 years later. Morpheus is dead, and she mentions that Zion fell or whatever due to like machines kind of like rebelling against each other or something, and they were like fighting with each other, and the humans like in the middle. Like some machines joined the humans, and other machines wanted to kill the humans, even though there like was peace or whatever at the end of Matrix 3. But it did last for years, but then it kind of backfired. I did like the idea that some of the machines are like working with the humans now, and other machines still want to like keep the humans and battery power them. And then you got Neil Patrick Harris in here, who, yeah, this is going to be filled with spoilers. All my reviews are. Who we find out is he's like Neo's psychiatrist, who keeps telling him that the Matrix stuff is just like all in his mind, and it is just a video game thing that he made, and he's like going crazy or whatever, and he has to take these, of course, the blue pills in order to nullify himself, which is what it really is, which I thought was kind of a neat idea. At the same, once again, that could have been like a whole movie by itself. The most interesting thing in this movie, though, is the advancements they've made in the story from Part 3, with the whole idea of machines, some being against humanity and some like working with humanity. When we see some of the machines like in the real world, working with humans and stuff like that, and they're able to like digitize like the artificial programs from the Matrix like into reality, so they can actually help the humans. That's pretty cool. The new Morpheus is not very good. He's just kind of passable. He has a lot of bad moments. He's nowhere near as cool as Lawrence Fishburne. You really feel Lawrence Fishburne's absence. The new Agent Smith they got in here is bad. Like every now and then he has a good moment, but as a whole, when he tries to like compare to Hugo Weaving, he is bad. And it's not the actor's fault. He's stuck in a very bad spot, trying to compare to Hugo Weaving, and it really makes no sense why he's like some kind of new remade version of Hugo Weaving. They never really explain it. I guess he's just been remade by the new architect of the Matrix, which is Neil Patrick Harris. Spoiler alert! Who's like, for some reason, he brought Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss back to life after Matrix 3, where they died, and then he tries to keep them separate to not interact with each other. I guess it's the whole thing of the architect has to like reshape the Matrix and all that. Why is there a new architect? I have no idea. Why isn't it just the old dude from the other movies? But yeah, I guess it's that whole thing they introduced in Matrix Reloaded, where the architect just has to keep rebuilding the Matrix, and he has to. But why do they constantly put in like a Keanu Reeves character? Like if there had been peace after Matrix 3, why would he feel the need to put back in a new version of Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss's characters if there's peace? And then he has the problems of if they connect with each other or find each other, then that disrupts everything in the Matrix. So why doesn't he just kill Carrie Ann Moss right then and there, and that would just solve the problem? It's never explained. Um, the movie's kind of bland for a lot of it. I mean, the movie's overlong, I'll say that, and it does start to get really bland towards like the main second half of the movie, towards the third act, because Keanu Reeves doesn't really have any of his powers anymore, and it's most of the movies like him finally becoming the one again by the end. So in some ways, it's a repeat of that first movie with him becoming the one over again. But at the same time, no, there's enough new here for this to kind of be its own movie, even though it's not a good one. I did like the fact that Neil Patrick Harris has like a cat, and it's the Deja Vu cat from the first Matrix. But at the same time, he like packs the cat around or whatever, like Doctor Evil from Austin Powers. I didn't really like that. And Neil Patrick Harris is good when he's just being the psychiatrist and he's just kind of sitting down and talking. But when he tries to be like intimidating and stuff, it doesn't really work. He's way too human acting for a program. And he's just way too goofy vibe, Neil Patrick Harris. Um, yeah, the action here is surprisingly not very good compared to the other three Matrix movies. They give Keanu Reeves like this airbending technique, which does look cool, I will say, in some of the action scenes. At the end when he deflects a missile and blows up a helicopter, that's pretty cool. I've heard some people complain like, "Oh no, they're gonna make Trinity the one. This movie's woke or whatever." No, this movie's not woke at all. There's like no forced like liberal messages or conservative messages or anything like that in this movie. There's no forced political stuff in this at all. It's just a bad written movie. You get to the end though, and they jump off a building because they're him and Trinity does, and they're trying to like wake each other up out of the Matrix to free her mind. I did like the moment where Neil Patrick Harris keeps calling her Tiffany or whatever because that's the name he's given her inside the Matrix. She's like, "My name is not effing Tiffany." That was pretty funny. I did like that at the end. And they jump off a building, and Keanu Reeves isn't able to fly, and all at once it's Trinity that's able to fly, and she saves Neo. That could have been a cool moment. Like, I will say this, Keanu Reeves' acting in this movie for the most part is good, but he does have some weak moments. When he is together with Carrie Ann Moss, though, that's when his acting really excels, and he is much better. He is great in those scenes, and they have really great chemistry still, even by the fourth movie, even though it's been so many years. So I will say that if the whole movie had been with them from the beginning to the end, it it probably would have been pretty cool. Like if, by the end, if she did take off like flying with him in it, but because you get the idea that that's probably gonna happen, because it seems like something that they would do in this movie by the time you get to that point, it doesn't really work as a good surprise. So it's kind of lame. When you get to the end, though, they like beat the shit out of Neil Patrick Harris for a while, and then they decide to like reshape the new Matrix or whatever to make it better for humans, and they both fly off into the sky. So they're now both the one with both magic one powers. That's kind of lame to me because I mean I like if the movie had been better written, maybe it could have felt more earned and worked better. But it's just kind of lame to me because it's supposed to be the one, just one person, and it's been Keanu Reeves for every movie. So now it's the two. It kind of defeats the purpose of me for the whole idea of the one. So I didn't like that just because it goes against like the whole concept of the one being a one. I know the whole idea they're going for is like that these two are a unity, and really the one is like their love or whatever. That's really corny. Sorry about that. That's my light. But yeah, that's really corny. It doesn't really work for me. all in all, by the end, there's some good like ambition here for this movie, but I got to give it a 0 out of 4. It could have worked if they had. I think this movie could have worked better if they just left Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss and all that just kind of out of the movie and just made it set in the real world. Forget the Matrix stuff. I mean, you can still call it the Matrix. I know people like hardcore fans and our average audiences would want the Matrix to be in a Matrix movie, but I think this movie would have also worked better if it just focused on the humans and the machines and the evil machines, like trying to going against each other and trying to rebuild humanity in the real world and all that. I think this movie honestly would have played better because that's the most interesting part of the film. But yeah, all in all, it's a 0 out of 4. Not one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but for a Matrix movie for the fourth film, this is bad. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.